Hi, today we'll be working on this tiny console, and here's my Google Pixel 4a for comparison. This, by the way, is pretty old phone and very small by today's standards. This particular one is quite dirty and yellow, but the good news is that these consoles don't really yellow as such. In most cases it's just dirt and nicotine, and they clean up really nicely, which I'll show you at the end of the video. Well, it's obviously a PC Engine, really great and underappreciated little console. It was released in 1987 in Japan, as far as I remember, and it was sold under TurboGrafx 16 in the US and just TurboGrafx in Europe. Originally it was designed to be a Famicom competitor, and it was a great success in Japan, and it actually outsold Famicom at some point. It was a different story in US and Europe, as it was delayed to the point where it had to compete with SNES and Mega Drive. It was still a very good competitor, but obviously this was hybrid 8-bit console. It has 8-bit CPU and it has 16-bit graphics chip. It actually has two graphics chips. One is display controller, one is color encoder, and they're both 16-bit chips. And this was pretty advanced hardware for the time. Almost 700 games were released for the PC Engine. Some of them were very good games, and some were almost arcade-perfect ports. But shooters is where the console really shines. There's probably more shooters for this console than NES Master System combined. And most of these shooters are excellent games. The console is using these Hue cards, which are tiny cartridges. I don't think any other console used this type of cartridges, apart from Sega Master System. Some of the games for Master Systems were released on very similar cartridges. Anyway, this original PC Engine has only RF output, which obviously is not very useful today. There are a few ways of using these consoles with modern TV. Most of them make use of the extension bus that is right here, this slot right here. One of them is this Super HD System 3 Pro in this case. There's a few, there's at least two variants of this. One has just RGB output, no HDMI. This one has HDMI. This is a great solution for PC Engine, but it's very expensive. I think it's about €250, and that's before taxes and shipping and all that. So you'll end up paying well over €300 in total. Plus, it's it looks, you just slide it in right here, but it kind of looks ugly. It takes the whole charm of this small, tiny device. There are other options. You can plug in some other extension thingies right here, and you'll get RGB or composite or RGB and composite, I think. But today we'll be installing Turbonanza, which is an internal mode that you install in the system. It replaces RF output, so no modifications, external modifications to the case. You'll just get the nice output here. It provides composite video, it provides RGB, and it provides S-video. And let me tell you, S-video in this case, coming from Turbonanza, it's just perfect. Obviously, it's not as sharp as RGB, but the colors, the feel of S-video is just great, and that's what I'll be using. I don't have RGB cable. I may buy one at some point, but I'm really happy with S-video, and I'll show you the results when it's installed. So the Turbonanza is an open source project. It's again open source. You can make it yourself, but obviously people are selling these ready-made kits, and if you buy one, you should be getting the Turbonanza board itself. By the way, there's obviously some variants of this console, so original PC Engine, then TurboGrafx American, TurboGrafx European, then there's CoreGrafx, CoreGrafx 2, there's then later released a lot later and a lot more expensive SuperGrafx. You can install this on all of them. there are different variants, so when you need to kind of pick your correct version for your console. This is for original PC Engine. So anyway, it comes with the main board, so this is Turbonanza. It comes with this kind of adapter board where you actually install the Sega Saturn 9, 10 pin, I think 10 pin connector. So this, by the way, comes with the kit. Well, everything I'll show you comes with the kit. So you should be getting this board, this port. You should be getting this ribbon cable that will connect main board right here to this board, and then this is optional, but I think you should be getting it if you're I think this is included by default in most recent versions. Again, this is optional, so you don't really need that, but it helps with the installation of this, because you can just place it right here on the board and then solder around here. I'll show you that in details when we are doing this, but yeah, this helps, but you don't really have to have that. You can install it directly on the board. Just you would need to scratch the green layer solder mask from the board, just to have some sort of copper or metal so that you can solder it. But again, it should come with this. It makes life a lot easier. So yeah, so that's Turbonanza, and again, it's a great mod. By the way, it also provides stereo output, so that's another benefit of using this device. So I'll take this whole thing to my workshop or desk. I'll disassemble this device, and I'll show you how to do it. To disassemble it, you only need to remove these 4 screws. These are these game bit screws, or whatever they are called, and then you can remove this top part, and then there's another board that's screwed with 3 screws, I think, right here, and somewhere here, or the other way around, here, and here. That's connected by a ribbon cable to the main board. So you need to remove these 3 screws as well, and then you'll have your both boards free from the case. So I'll do that right now, and let's start modding the console. Okay, so this is the board. As I said, this is the bottom of it, and this little board is connected to the top of the console with just 3 screws, so we just need to remove those. These are Phillips, fortunately, and not these game bits. So first things first, what we need to do, we need to remove this shield. There's actually a few layers of this shield, and this is kind of important because this metal part provides ground to these 2 points. So this is ground right here, and this has to be connected to one of those later. But again, first things first, we need to remove that. And to remove that, there's just a few points where we need to desolder it. So right here, and these 2 points, and I think that's all. So what I'll do, I'll add some fresh, a little bit of flux. Oh, there's one more right here. Just a tiny bit to make things easier. So that's done. Let's grab the soldering iron, and I have quite a big tip on this one, just to make things easier again. So I think I'll start here on this side. So you just take that, heat it up, and will just come off. So this one's free. Next one is here. Let me turn on my fume extractor first. Okay, so hopefully this doesn't bother you too much. Again, my homemade fume extractor, which is really good, by the way. So let's do next one right here. This one's free. Then we'll do these 2. Done. And 2 remaining. So this one and this one, and we are done. Now I'll put these aside. We won't need that. We won't be using this later. But you can keep this, obviously, if you want to, if you ever want to come back to this, which will be tricky because we'll need to remove a few components. But anyway, now I'll clean these spots a little bit because there's quite a lot of solder on these points, and I don't want to scratch the case. So let's take some of that solder out. That's done. Oh, that's getting hot. Doesn't need to be perfect, it's just I don't want that much solder here. And where were we? Right here. That's okay. And then these 2 points and we should be good. Again, there's still a little bit of solder remaining, but that's not a problem at all. I just need to take the majority of it out. Okay, that should be good. Now I'll cut this off because we'll need the wick later. And while I'm at it, I may as well just clean these spots. And again, doesn't need to be perfect. Well, as long as you have a good flux, you should be good. Even without cleaning, because it shouldn't affect the circuit board. But I like things to be clean. I'll clean this off as well as much as I can. Okay, so we should be good. So with this out, there's a few steps that we need to take. So first of all, we need to remove a few components. So we need to remove these are resistors, I believe. So 1, 2, 3. I think these 3 resistors. We'll leave that in place as per the wiki or per instructions. I'll link obviously the wiki page in the description later. So we need to remove 1, 2, 3 resistors right here. These 2 will leave in place, and we'll need to. And these are, by the way, R134, 137, and R138. And then we'll need to remove this one, R145, this resistor. So we'll do it right now. This is fairly easy. Well, obviously you could use hot air, which I won't, because there's really no need to heat up the whole board just to remove these few components. All we need to do is just grab some solder and add fresh solder to both sides. Just a little bit, not too much. And then just hit both sides, and there you go. That's one gone. Now, on some consoles, there's some sort of a glue or adhesive beneath this. So some consoles you will need to push that a little bit in order to remove that. Not too hard. It's just make sure that the solder is melted and just push a little bit. Because some of those components can be stuck on the board. But anyway, this is fairly easy. This didn't need to sorry. This one didn't need any force. It just came off very easy. So that's second, and last one in here, and gone. So as you can see, this was fairly easy, no problem at all. And as usual, I'll just go ahead and remove that solder, because I don't need it here. Well, not now. Okay, that's done. And obviously we'll clean this off. What I'm going to do as well, while I'm at it, I'll add a little bit of solder. Actually, I'll do it later when I have a smaller tip, because this one's huge, and there is a reason I have this one here. So the last one is this one here, R145. So we'll need to remove this one as well. So again, just add some fresh solder to both sides, just like that. And then we'll just heat up both sides and it's gone. So there you go, we are all done. And let me just clean this. I'll leave that solder here because I won't be connecting anything to this side. Just need to remove that. So that's first step. We'll be connecting some wires to this, to these 4 points. So this one right here, this one, and this one. So this side facing me. So we'll need to connect 4 wires, and then we'll need wire from here to one of these to here. But again, that will come later. Now, so that was easy. Now the tricky part is that we will need to remove the RF modulator, and this can be tricky on PC Engine. It's fairly easy to do on Ataris and stuff, but on these ones you have a few options. One option is to use low melt solder. So just add some low melt solder and then it should come off. You know what, I'll actually do that right now. Well, I'll try that. Another option is to cut this. I'm not sure if you can see it. Let me just gently take that off. So right here there's 3 pins on the RF modulator right here. So another option is to cut this off, and then it will come off easy, because this will be these 3 pins will kind of prevent you from cleanly removing this. So yeah, that's another option. But again, in any case, whether you use low melt solder or cut this off and then just heat up this one, and you will need to pray this with some sort of flat screwdriver so that it will come off. So this one, and so on until it's off, essentially. But let me try. I actually never done that with low melt solder, so let's try low melt solder in this case. And by the way, that's the reason I have a huge tip, because this will need a lot of heat, because essentially it's all connecting to this metal enclosure. So let me grab some low melt solder. And again, with low melt solder, be very careful. I think I mentioned that in one of my previous videos, because you can very easily make a lot of mess. So keep it where you want to put it. Don't do it here. Like, don't heat it up here, because it will melt instantly and make a huge mess on the board. So let's try that. Let's try and add that low melt solder in here. Okay, let's add some low melt solder. Yeah, that wasn't intended. Low melt solder here. I need more. So let's grab some more. And the reason I didn't do that with low melt solder so far, because as you can see we are wasting quite a lot of low melt solder here. But anyway, let's try that. Maybe it is a good idea, I don't know. And then low melt solder to these 3 points. That should be enough, I hope. And I'll need flux, obviously. Flux always helps. So let's add some flux here, because it will stick to your soldering iron if you don't have flux, as you can clearly see right now. So let's try and spread it on this. Try to keep it here for some time. Just let it need to be closer to the fume extractor. Okay, so as you can see, it's already on my board. I need to be very careful. Okay, let's try that. Let's try doing this. So, not sure if I'll be able to do it on camera, but so I'll just put this here, heat everything up, just try and pray, just like that. It should hopefully start coming off. Yeah, honestly, it doesn't make the job any easier, to be honest. So I would say low melt solder is not really necessary. So let's see what we did here. So now let's come from this side. You need to be very careful because again, we don't want to damage the board, obviously. So let's heat these up first because they will prevent us from like that. So this one is free, as you can see. Hopefully it's almost free. It's just one side. Actually, it did help. Low melt solder helped. Just be careful there. As you can see, these 3 pin I was talking about. So you can cut them off and it'll be a lot easier. But if you want to keep them, well, low melt solder helps. But as you can see, it left a lot of mess. So if you can imagine if you have that blob somewhere here, it'll be very, very hard to clean this off later. But anyway, let's clean it off while we are at it, because I definitely don't want it here on the board. And there you go. And that low melt solder is very hard to remove. So I'll clean this off off camera and I'll come back in a few minutes. Okay, so the board is clean, and one thing, just make sure when you're cleaning the board, make sure that these 3 holes, or at least these 2, are empty, because we will need them to be very clean, because we'll be putting the screws, 2 I believe screws in those. So make sure you remove all solder from these spots. Okay, so that is done now, and that was the hardest part in my opinion. Now we'll put our Turbonanza board and solder the Turbonanza board here. So for PC Engine, for this particular model, original model, the Turbonanza will install Turbonanza in this way. So we'll just place it right here over these pins, if I can manage that, and then we'll just lay flat on top of the original board, and we'll just need to solder these few points. So in particular, you will see them easily because the points that you need to solder will have this essentially copper or whatever that metal is. So these are empty, you don't need to connect those or those. You'll see them easily. Again, this is for this particular model. Go and check GitHub if you have different consoles, so TurboGrafx or CoreGrafx. Just make sure you're connecting it as per your console, as per GitHub. So again, these are just a few points that we need to solder, and let me do it right now. By the way, I changed the tip to something a lot smaller because I'll need a smaller tip right now. So let's go ahead and solder those points right now. So all we need to make sure is that it stays flat on the board, and we can start. I'll start with this one just to kind of keep it in place. like that. And again, when you're soldering, obviously make sure that you're touching both the pad here and the pin. Yeah, that's again basics, soldering basics. So let me do it quickly. So this side's done. It's all nice and clean and shiny. Let's do this side now. Okay, that's all done. So I'll just clean this off again. These, by the way, are the lint-free Q-tips. So these are kind of normal, standard Q-tips. These are lint-free. Yeah, these are a lot better because they don't leave a mess, especially when you're cleaning stuff like this where you have kind of exposed pins and stuff. So that's done. So now, next thing, we need to connect this. Where's my, yeah, there it is. So we need to connect these pads right here to these points, and they essentially go, this is for the S video as far as I believe. So this is Y or Y1, I don't know. This pad goes here, next one goes here, next one, third goes here, and fourth, the BRS, goes right here. And I'm not sure if you can see this, but right here, this is R141 resistor to this side of the resistor. And now you can use essentially any wires, just make sure they are the same length. What I'll do, let me see, where did I put it? What I'll do, I'll use this. So this came off the ribbon cable, the IDE ribbon cable. So I'll put this aside and I'll just use 4 wires right here. And let me just, because that way I make sure they are same length and they look nice. So let me just see how I'm going to do this. Maybe here, and then something like this, and then I'll come back right here. That should do it, yeah. So let me just like that. So right there, and then right here. Okay. Yeah. So I'll cut this off somewhere around here. Okay, so I'll prepare this. So thin the ends, spread this obviously, thin the ends. As you can see, it kind of matches the pins. So red one goes to the first one here and to the first one here. So let me do it off camera and I'll come back in a minute. Okay, so my cable is prepared. So as you can see there, right there. One thing that I forgot to do is to thin this and add a little bit of fresh solder to these points here, so let me do it right now. That's done, and I'll add a little bit of fresh solder to these points, right there, right there. And to this side of that resistor here. That should be enough. So let's do it. So I'll start with the Turbonanza board right here. think I'll do it off camera and I'll come back because it's very hard for me to reach here, so I'll be back in a minute. Okay, so this side is done. Just be careful because there is a very tiny resistor right here on this side. Be careful not to knock it off. Let me just double check if it's okay. Yeah, this is all and nice. So now let's route it there. And to this point it's actually slightly too long, but that shouldn't be a problem, I believe. So we'll just move it right here. Okay, so again I'll do it off camera, and again it's just you just connect these cables as they are, so in series essentially. I'll show you that in a minute. I'll be back. Okay, so all done. It's a little bit too long. I should have been a little bit shorter, but it will lay flat and it's secure. I'll probably add some Kapton tape or silicone, the electronics grade silicone, to keep this ribbon in place so that I don't tear off these pads here. But again, that's done. The last thing that we need to do is connect actually this pad right here, this one, with this. This is ground. Let me just double check. Actually, let's grab this and see. So this went that way. Yeah, this pad exactly. So this to one of the two there. And for that I will use let's just use one of these left over. Yeah, that should be enough. So this will go something like this here. Plenty of room. Okay, so I'll start here because it'll be easier for me. And again, I'll do it off camera. I'll just solder this end to this pad. So that's done, as you can see there. And one last thing is this. And again, the cable is a little bit too long, but that doesn't really matter. So let's solder it right here. Perfect. So this side of the board is done. Again, I'll need to secure this somehow. Now we need to switch to the other side of the board because, by the way, I'll be recapping this board as well. I probably should have done that before this. Anyway, I'll desolder it and do it again. But so yeah, it's worth, while you're at it, it's worth recapping this board because again, this is yeah, a few decades has passed since these caps were new. So I would say, and there's just this bunch of caps and just two right here inside there, as you can see. But anyway, that's not the point of this video. So the last part, last bit is, and I need to somehow move this away. You need to be careful with these ribbon cables because they are soldered directly to the board, as you can see. So make sure you don't break this. Again, it's not hard to fix if you break something, but why do it? So we need to solder this this port or connector to the board. So just place it right here so that it sits flat. The only reason we are doing it here on the board is to place it there so it sits kind of flat on the board, and just touch it with the, and again I'll need to change to the large tip because this whole video port is a heatsink essentially. So place it there, make sure it sits flat, and just tap it so that it's in place, and then we'll move it to more comfortable place. So I'll put some solder here, a lot of solder actually, and then I'll move this in place, hold it in place, and just try and solder this to the, which won't be easy, to this, need more solder, to this video connector. I think that will work now. Actually it's moving already, so let's put it back in place, and now I'll just make sure it sits flat there. Yep. Okay, so I can take this off now, and I'll grab some silicone because I will heat this up quite a lot. So this side is done, so let's start adding. Just make sure it sits flat. Sorry, it sits flat here, and it does. Does it? Yeah, it sits there nicely, and then it's just as much solder as you can. And again, heat up both the pad and the video connector, because otherwise the solder won't stick to the connector. I'll show you in a minute because you probably can't see. I'll show you how it should look. So that side is done. So there, maybe like that. You see, it's kind of flowing nicely, so it definitely holds the connector. And by the way, don't touch it, it's very, very hot. So the same thing on this side. Feed a lot of solder to this, spread it around, and then add a lot more solder so that it can grab the video port. Just like that, and we'll finish up with this side. Ouch, that's really, really hot. Okay, that should be enough. So I'll clean this off. And the other side will also need cleaning probably. Oh no, the other side is okay. So as you can see, it's even this board is hot. It sits there nicely, solder all around it. So this should be good to go. Now, as for this board, so we need to use M2 screws to, well, you can solder the board, obviously. You can use solder and just put a lot of solder in these holes and it will hold. My preference is to use M2 screws, tiny M2 screws, to hold this board, and this works really nice. And then if you really want to, you can then flip this board once you're sure it's in position and put some solder here, so maybe it will kind of hold this, but that's not necessary, not really so. So let me find some M2 screws and we'll connect that. By the way, when you're connecting this, make sure you leave maybe like a half millimeter of space in here from the edge of the board, because otherwise, if you don't, you will need to remove, it's not a big deal, but you may need to remove these two posts, so just cut them off And by the way, you will also need to cut off these two where the Turbonanza board will be, not on this side, sorry, this one. So the Turbonanza will be in here, so we need to remove these two. We'll do it right now before I forget. So just use the pliers. Don't worry, it won't be visible from outside. So that's done. And again, yeah, so going back to what I was saying. So this, when you're screwing it in, make sure you leave just a tiny bit of space. So don't go like this. Just leave a tiny bit of space. You'll see what I'm talking about when you're putting the case back. And again, the advantage of using M2 screws is that you can actually adjust the position. Once you solder it, it'll be, well, harder. Okay, so let me find some M2 screws. We'll screw this in, and then we'll solder the rest. So the last thing that you need to do is solder this tiny board to the connector. And again, it's fairly easy. I'll show you that in a minute. Let me just find some M2 screws. Okay, so I've got the screws. As you can see, they are tiny. So let's try not to lose them. And maybe I'll do that. So I'll put them in because it's, again, they are tiny and it's hard. So I'll put them in off camera and I'll come back. Okay, so they're in. I didn't tighten them, so as you can see, I can still move the board slightly in pretty much any direction. So the last thing is to solder this board, I'm not sure if you can see it, on top of the connector. So just make sure it sits flat in place, and again solder all these points and all these pins. And again, I will have to do it off camera because it will be hard for me to reach here. So just make sure you don't short, because they are fairly close to each other. Make sure you don't short any of these. So I'll do it right now and I'll come back in a few minutes. Okay, so the board is soldered and it's clean. I cleaned this as well. Sits fairly flat. So that's all the soldering. Now the last remaining thing is to connect this kind of daughter board with the main board, and that will be tricky because you will need to do some sort of routing. So, and how you do it is you just, I believe this blue tab goes up, but again you need to remove, first of all you need to remove this black tab there. And how are we going to do this? We're going on top of that. So slide it in there, make sure it sits there fully, then lock the tab just like that, and then we'll go which way we are going. How do we do this? Because it needs to come in from this side, so maybe something like that. Let me see, I'm just trying to see if this will work. We do it like that. Yes, it should work. So probably do it here, something like this. Sorry, you probably can't see this because this ribbon cable is really annoying. Like that. And then again release the tab first, and then the blue part goes on top, and I'll try to slide it in here. Unfortunately I will have to remove all that because I will be replacing the caps, but anyway, we'll just test if it works. So this goes right in there. We'll lock the tab. As you can see, this is still moving because I will just try it in the case. So yeah, I think that will that will be okay. So so that's done. Essentially all is done, everything is done. We just need to put it in case, but first we'll go ahead and test it. So I'll go back to my kind of usual desk and we'll plug it in and see if this works. I'll be back. Okay, so everything's connected. Bonk's cartridge inside, the S-video cable that goes to RetroTink and then to my capture device and excuse me, and to the screen, power, controller. So everything's connected. Let's power it on. Actually, let me share quickly. There. So again, this is S-video, and you probably won't see this, but because of the capture device and then compression and all that stuff. But I can tell you, on the monitor, on the screen, external screen, this looks absolutely amazing. Honestly, S-video is very close to RGB. Looks perfect, and the sound, again, stereo sound, also great. Honestly, I couldn't wish for more. So let me just so again, I highly recommend this mod. So if all that's left, let me just turn this off. So all is left, I will need to recap this, put it in the shell, and it's all done. And again, I highly recommend this mod. It's not expensive, like 40-50 euro or US dollars. As you can see, it's fairly easy. The removal of the RF modulator is kind of tricky, but everything else is fairly simple. By the way, here's roughly how the console looked before. So this is the original controller from that console, and this is how it looks after cleaning. I use Oxy something. Any good washing liquid should work. As you can see, this is very close to original. So it's not yellowed at all. It was just dirt, nicotine, and all that stuff. I guess Japanese smoked a lot during that time. So yeah, now when it ends up in this shell, this will be perfect, absolutely perfect device, and without really need of use of this. But yeah, again, I highly recommend. I highly recommend PC Engine. If you don't have one, just get one. They are not that expensive. Buy one. CoreGrafx, whichever variant, and try it out. It's really great device. And then with this mod, with Turbonanza, it's absolutely perfect. So thanks for today, and we'll do something else next time.